Good morning. My name is Lynda Kaylor, and it is my great honor to be the co-chair of the wonderful standing committee. It's always great to see everyone, even if it's only virtual. Just knowing that you are out there makes me so happy. Now that the church year has started, there is so much going on. And here are the Community Matters highlights. Mark your calendars for next Sunday, October 3rd. The Racial Justice Action Committee is continuing their amazing work. RJAC, as we call them, invites us to join together to open our hearts and minds to the injustices in America. We will be reading and discussing Robin DiAngelo's book, White Fragility: Why It's So Hard for White People to Talk About Racism. This is such an important topic. There will be 5 bi-weekly sessions, and for more details or to register, email Carolyn McCreary, or just talk to her at coffee hour. RJAC also recommends the film The Infiltrators. It's going to be on GBH, our local PBS station. And I just love that they are making suggestions for films to watch, even when we can't meet for their movie nights. The Women's Alliance is going to have a virtual presentation on October 10th. The topic is Saudade and Bossa Nova, featuring none other than our own Reverend Lara Hoke. How cool is that? Reverend Lara talking about Brazilian music. Don't miss it. The Alliance meeting starts at 11:30 and Reverend Lara's talk starts at noon. The Zoom link is in Community Matters. Our first ever virtual Jamming in Our Kitchen sale is coming. The jamming folks have been undeterred and worked hard all summer so that you can buy your favorite jams and pickles online. We will be using the same program that we used for the auction, but this time you will be buying and not bidding. First come, first serve, so get them early before they sell out. The sale runs from October 1st to October 7th. FCU is going to offer small group ministries this year. You may have participated in small group ministries in the past and know that they are intentional, lay-led small groups that deepen connections. We will be offering Soul Matters, and they have some very intriguing themes this year. There is a lovely write-up about it in Community Matters. Let Reverend Lara know if you are interested in a Soul Matters group or if you have an idea for an alternative group. Transform your trash to clean water in Honduras. The indomitable Lynda will recycle your 5-cent deposit cans and bottles. That is something I hate doing. Bring your rinsed cans and bottles to church and place them in bins on the far right entrance to the Sunday school building. Here's a reminder that Reverend Lara is seeking volunteers to contribute to Sunday service. So if you have the gift of music or storytelling or something else we haven't even thought of, share your ideas with Reverend Lara and we'll get to see you here. Lastly, check out the flyer for an event hosted by First Church of Stowe and Acton entitled Toward Right Relationship with Native Peoples. It will be an entire weekend of online events, November 13th through the 15th. Yes, we can plan for November. As always, please refer to your Community Matters for details, and I will see you all at the end of the service. Thanks.
Good morning and welcome. Thanks, Natalie. Natalie says good morning too. The Prelude today is just a short piano piece by composer Max Bruch, who was writing during the Romantic period, so the late 1800s. He is a German composer. He wrote mostly string music, violin music, concertos, some symphonies, but he did write a couple piano pieces that are really very beautiful. So here is Moderato by Max Bruch.
Our call to worship. For the sin we committed by not serving our community, and for the sin we committed by serving our community and neglecting ourselves and our families. For the sin we committed by chasing after material possessions, and for the sin we committed by thinking we are unworthy of owning nice things. For the sin we committed by saving the world and ignoring our own people, and for the sin we committed by saving our own people and ignoring the rest of the world. For the sin we committed by being too busy for our children, and for the sin we committed by indulging our children. For the sin we committed by ignoring the past, and for the sin we committed by living only in the past. For the sin we committed by being selfish, and for the sin we committed by not loving ourselves and not caring enough for ourselves. These words adapted by Rabbi Dov Peretz Elkins. In honor of Yom Kippur, let us look at our wrongdoings and how we can renew ourselves, each other, and the world by asking forgiveness, taking ownership, and finding unity. Let us worship. I invite you at home, if you have a chalice to light, to do so now and get ready to say the words of our covenant along with Sierra, who will light and say the words today.
Love is the spirit of this church and serves his law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another.
Good morning. Sorry, I had a little delay there. I had a difficult time lighting the chalice because it's a little humid in the sanctuary this morning. My glasses are fogging up too. Good morning and welcome to the online virtual worship of First Church Unitarian in Littleton, Massachusetts. My name is Lara Hoke, and I'm so happy to be the minister serving this amazing congregation. You found us this morning. I'm so glad you're here. I hope you'll keep coming on Sunday mornings for our virtual services. And maybe when this is over, if you live close enough, I hope you'll join us in person someday. We'd love to meet you. A few thank yous to get started. I want to thank Sierra for lighting our chalice and saying the words of our covenant this morning, and to Juliana for filming that. I want to thank Molly Lozeau, as always, for the beautiful music this morning. I want to thank Melissa Barger Baern, who will tell our story this morning in our Time for All Ages. She's pretty fabulous, so I look forward to that. And finally, thank you to Hugh Vartanian for being our tech person this morning and to showing our videos. Oh, and thank you to Lynda Kaylor also, of course, for Community Matters this morning, and to Chris Ursuline, who puts it together. This morning is a Unitarian Universalist appreciation of the Jewish holiday of Yom Kippur, and you'll be hearing more about that. And don't forget to join us after the service on Zoom for Joys and Concerns, and then our virtual coffee hour. The link went out earlier with the link to this service. And with that, it's time for our opening hymn, number 217, and Molly will share something about that first. I said that Molly was going to say some words to introduce that, but she didn't. I'm sorry, Molly, if I threw things off there. O Sing Alleluia, certainly a traditional hymn for this season for our Jewish siblings and neighbors and friends. So, do you know what this is? Can you see it? This is a shofar. Shofar, so good. I tell that joke every year. I know. This is, in fact, a horn in both senses of the word. It's the horn from an animal, and it's also a horn as in something we blow into. They call trumpets and other brass instruments horns, because originally blowing instruments like that were, in fact, animal horns. Shofars are an important part of certain Jewish holidays. They're especially important for Rosh Hashanah, which is the Jewish New Year. That was last weekend. That was over last weekend. And that is, in fact, Rosh Hashanah is also known as the day of the shofar blast. It's the central mitzvah or good deed that Jews are supposed to do, is to go and hear the shofar on Yom Kippur services. The shofar is also used for Rosh Hashanah services. The shofar is also used for Yom Kippur, less prominently, but at the very end of the service, there's one long shofar blast. And you might wonder why. Partly it's supposed to be symbolizing triumph, that prayers have been answered and so on. The other reason this is blown at the end of a Yom Kippur service is it means the end of the fast, because observant Jews will fast for Yom Kippur. And in the days before clocks, this would have been a good way to know that your time was up and you could eat again. So this particular horn comes from a kudu, which is, in fact, a kind of African antelope. And no animal was harmed because these are shed naturally. So that's what this is from. This smaller shofar is from a ram's horn. And most shofars are made from ram's horns, meant to symbolize and remind people of the story of Abraham and Isaac in the Hebrew scriptures. So, would you like to hear them? I don't hear you. Oh, right, I can't hear you. Okay, so shofar. So shofar, so good. This is the ram's horn. Let's see if I can get a sound from this today. Okay. And this is from the kudu, which is much longer. So there you are. We have a couple of special things for our time for all ages this morning, besides telling you about the shofar. We will now see a video of something that happened this past Monday here at the church in person, which is great, which is the RE Water Communion. So please enjoy this brief video, which will be followed by Melissa telling this morning's story. And Melissa is a birthday girl, as I understand it. So happy birthday, Melissa. So enjoy our videos.
Good morning. I'm Melissa Baern, and today I'm your storyteller. And I'm going to tell you a story that comes from a book by a lady named Jacqueline Jules. It's called The Hardest Word. Once upon a time, a very long time ago, when fabulous and marvelous creatures roamed the earth, there was an especially fabulous and truly marvelous creature called the Ziz. The Ziz was a giant bird with beautiful, colorful wings. Were so big that when he flew, they blocked out the sky. He had a marvelous head full of purple feathers. He loved to fly and swoop and dive. He loved it when the children looked up at the sky and said, "Look, there goes the Ziz." The children were his best friends, and he loved to play with them. And the only thing he liked better than swooping and diving through the sky was being with the children. Unfortunately, the Ziz was really, really clumsy, and he made mistakes a lot. One day, he was swooping and flying, and he swooped all the way up to the top of the sky, and he flew so high that he knocked a star right out of the sky, and it fell all the way to the ground, and it made a huge hole in the ground. "Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy," said the Ziz. "Now what do I do? Now what do I do?" So he thought, and he thought, and he thought, and he thought, and he flew back up to the sky, and he knocked a rain cloud down with his wing. Boom! And the rain cloud filled up the hole he'd made with the star with water. And the children had a brand new swimming pool. Everybody was so happy. And the Ziz was thrilled because he'd fixed his mistake, and everybody was happy. Well, one day, as the Ziz went careening through the sky, he was having so much fun that he completely ignored the biggest tree in the world and crashed right into it. And he crashed into the tree, and the tree fell over, and it smashed into the children's vegetable garden. Oh, the Ziz felt terrible. The children had been tending this garden so carefully for so long. They had weeded it and watered it, and they had grown all the little seeds themselves, and they were so excited about it, and it was wiped out. Well, the Ziz was very sad, so he flew away. He flew up to the top of a very lonely mountain, where he liked to go and talk to God sometimes. And God said, "Ziz, what's happened now?" And the Ziz said, I kind of crashed into a tree, and it kind of smashed into a vegetable garden." And God said, "The children's vegetable garden?" And the Ziz said, "Uh-huh. And I don't know how to fix it." And God said, "Well, that is a mistake, Ziz." And God thought, and they thought, and they thought. And then God said, "Ziz, bring me back the hardest word in the world." And the Ziz said, "Okay, I will." Because the Ziz had no idea what the hardest word in the world was, but he was very happy to have something to do to fix what he'd done. So he flew off, and he flew, and he flew, and he flew, and he flew all around the world, looking for the hardest word. And one night, he stopped by a cottage, and he heard a mama putting her little boy to bed. And the mama said, "It's time for bed." And the little boy said, "I don't want to go to bed." And the mama said, "It's time for bed. Good night." And the little boy said, "I don't want to go to bed." And the mama said, "Good night." And Aziz was delighted. And he flew 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 as fast as he could, all the way back to his mountain and said, God, I found it. The hardest word is good night. And God said, good night can be a very hard word, Ziz. There are a lot of people who don't like to go to bed. It's absolutely true. But it isn't the hardest word. Okay, said the Ziz. And he flew off and he flew 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 and he was still looking for the hardest word. And he came across a little house where Daddy was feeding his little girl dinner. And the little girl said, "More biscotti, Daddy, please." And Daddy said, "It's spaghetti, sweetheart." And the little girl said, "That's what I said, biscotti, please." And he thought, "Oh, I found it." So he flew back to God as fast as he could. And he said, God, I got it. It's spaghetti. The hardest word in the world is spaghetti. And he pronounced it very carefully because it really is quite a hard word. And God said, spaghetti can really trip up the tongue. That's true, but it's not the hardest word. Okay. The Ziz was gonna be okay with this. He was gonna keep trying, and he did. He flew and he flew and he flew, and then he would come back to God and he would bring back his words. And he brought back words like rhinoceros and Rumpelstiltskin and anti-disestablishmentarianism. And every time God would say, "That's a hard word, Ziz, but it's not the hardest word." And finally, the Ziz didn't know what else to do. The Ziz was so sad, and he collapsed down into the mountaintop, folding himself into his wings, and he said, "I'm sorry. I don't know what to tell you." And God said, "Congratulations, Ziz! That's it. You found the hardest word. The hardest word to say is you're sorry. It's so much easier to fly away or hide away or even to try to fix your mistake than to say, I'm sorry." So the Ziz gathered up all of his flying strength and prepared to fly back to his friends, the children, because he knew the time had come for him to say the hardest word.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Melissa. So appreciated. You've upped the bar on hair color for our time for all ages. And I think it was Elton John who said, sorry seems to be the hardest word. So there you are. All right. Now is time for our offering. It's an opportunity for generosity. If you would like to make an offering to support the good works of First Church Unitarian, now is a good time to do it. You can go to our website and look for the yellow donate button. The website is fculittle.org. And when you click on the donate button, it will give you a few options if you want to do it that way. Or you can also send in a check to First Church Unitarian, 19 Foster Street, Littleton, Massachusetts. And after Molly says a few words about the offertory, this morning's offering will be given and received in grateful appreciation.
So the offertory that you're going to hear today is actually a combination of a whole different assortment of melodies. So when I was doing some research about music that was played during this time, during Yom Kippur services or things like that, I found a melody called Kol Nidre that is used as both like a prayer that you say out loud and some melodies. Quiet, please. And so when I was doing this research, I found that in different countries, some of the melodies would change for this particular prayer. And so I found like one that they would sing in Germany, and one that they would sing in Poland, and one that they would sing in Switzerland, I believe, and just different countries around in Europe. And I just kind of like combined all of these melodies and put some chords underneath them so you can hear an assortment of melodies that you might hear during a traditional service.
Later today, at sundown, Yom Kippur begins. Yom Kippur is the most important day of the year for religious Jews. But really, it's that whole 10-day period that starts with Rosh Hashanah and ends with the 25 hours of Yom Kippur that are the crucial Jewish high holy days, also known as the days of awe. Rosh Hashanah, as I mentioned before, is the Jewish New Year, which fell over last weekend. It is now the year 5781 in the Jewish calendar, or the Hebrew calendar. So as I saw on social media, for those of us who are Gentiles, we can ask our Jewish friends if 2021 was any better than 2020. I kid, of course. In any case, during these days of awe, observant Jews are supposed to take stock. It's time to take a good look at one's life and think about what one is doing, how one is doing. It's a time to think about any wrongdoing or any regrets. It's an introspective time. It's a time to ask for forgiveness as well. According to the traditions of these holidays, on Rosh Hashanah, God either writes your name in the book of life, if you are obviously righteous, or God might write your name in the book of death, if you are obviously and clearly wicked through and through. But for most of us, you're kind of in an indeterminate, not completely righteous, not completely wicked place. Then Rosh Hashanah, the Jewish New Year, is your wake up, that you have 10 days to get it right. Because at the end of Yom Kippur, which comes at nightfall on Monday, nightfall tomorrow, that is the deadline for getting yourself in good graces and getting yourself written into the book of life. So I probably should have warned you about that last weekend. I apologize. Yom Kippur is also known as the Day of Atonement. At the heart of Yom Kippur for religious Jews is the concept of atonement, but also teshuvah. Teshuvah is a Hebrew word that's often translated as repentance, but a more accurate translation is probably turn or return, turning or returning. For traditionally religious Jews, atonement, or to break it down, at one meant, would mean becoming one with God. Teshuvah would mean returning to God and God's commandments. For more humanistic Jews, the version of teshuvah might be something more like returning to our best selves, returning to our highest ethics and ideals, perhaps turning to living in harmony with nature and other beings. A more mystical Jewish interpretation might be that Yom Kippur is the time for returning to source of all, that some might call God, or ultimate mystery, or the divine, or what have you. It could be a time for atonement or at one meant with the sense of oneness of all things. There's an archaic Middle English word. It's the familiar word one, but one used as a verb, to one, which meant to unite. The Latin root, and you know I love to use my Latin, and I know David is happy I'm using my Latin. The Latin root of the word atonement is adunamentum, which means unity. So, atonement is time for returning to the great unity. Yom Kippur is a time for spiritual renewal. And of course, here at First Church Unitarian, we're following the Soul Matters curriculum, and this is the month for renewal. So Yom Kippur is a day to focus on the spiritual rather than the material. And it's for observant Jews an aid in returning to the spiritual. It are certain customs and requirements to fast on the day of Yom Kippur. So you're not supposed to fast to eat on this day. to avoid things like work, which could be driving or turning on lights or using electronic devices. It should mean basically taking a break from focusing on the body. So no bathing, no perfume, no lotion, no sexual relations, on and on. An observant Jew would be in synagogue all day. Of course, with COVID-19, most Jews will have to observe the holiday virtually this year or at home. And so today we think of our Jewish siblings who might be missing this time together in the synagogue very much today. Traditionally, people wear white to the Yom Kippur service, which symbolizes purity or spirituality, and that's why I wore my white stole this morning. But Yom Kippur isn't just about you and your own spiritual work and asking for personal forgiveness. It's also important on Yom Kippur to do good works or good deeds, tzedakah. Now, this could be something like helping others with your time and talent, as we often talk about. It could also be giving some of your treasure, if you're able, to a charity, and so on. But the spiritual work that one does for Yom Kippur isn't just for their own renewal. If you ever listen closely to the words of the traditional prayers and lyrics for Yom Kippur, you'll notice that the pronoun that's used again and again is we. It is not I. In Kol Nidre, which Molly just talked about and played an improvisation of, this is recited in synagogues every Yom Kippur, and it's in Aramaic rather than Hebrew. And the translation of the Aramaic is in part, we repudiate, and our vows and our oaths. It's we. It's a powerful reminder that really the atonement of Yom Kippur is communal. It's for everyone. One of the sins that Rabbi Dov Peretz Elkins named in our opening words this morning was the sin we committed by saving our own people and ignoring the rest of the world. Actually, the words originally that he wrote were the sin we committed by saving Jews and ignoring the rest of the world, which I modified for our purposes. Today, I want to close by asking us to think about the wrongdoing we have committed by saving Unitarian Universalists and other like-minded people and ignoring the rest of the world. Or more pointedly, I ask us to think about the wrongdoings and harm that we have committed by focusing on Unitarian Universalists and other like-minded people and ignoring, even times maligning, others. These are fraught and divided times in our country and really in the world. I'm not asking us to remain silent, not at all. As Jesus, who was Jewish, it's always worth remembering, as Jesus said, quoted in the Christian Gospel of Matthew, I send you forth as sheep among wolves. Be therefore wise as serpents and harmless as doves. It's important to speak up for our rights. It's important to speak up for the oppressed. Nothing could be more important. But I'm asking us to remember also that in the other world that is possible, we are all in this together, no exceptions. I'm asking us to consider the words of a Jewish Kabbalah leader who wrote, hurt people hurt people. That's how pain patterns get passed on generation after generation after generation. Break the chain today. Meet anger with sympathy, contempt with compassion, cruelty with kindness. Greet grimaces with smiles. Love is the weapon of the future. we want to have, if we believe that we have the moral high ground, it helps to act that way. I'm asking us to consider our own Unitarian Universalist first principle, the inherent worth and dignity of every person, no exceptions. Again, no exceptions. Let us not give up on calling our leaders as well as our fellow US citizens and residents to the highest ideals. And let us call ourselves to our own high ideals. In the words found in our hymnal in A Litany of Atonement by Rob Eller Isaacs, it says, "We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love." May it be so. Blessed be, and amen. Our closing hymn is number 219. Friends, it is time for our closing words. And as you know, our custom, if we are together in person, is to form a bit of a circle as much as we can in the sanctuary, but to hold hands for the final words, the closing words. So I invite you, as always virtually, if you are able to hold hands with somebody in the room with you safely, please do. Otherwise, if you're alone in your room, as I am here in the sanctuary, I invite you to put your hands together and notice the warmth. And imagine your loving community with you as we hear these words. This Yom Kippur, may we be a people who care about all people. May we be a people who are quick to ask for forgiveness when we have wronged someone. And may we be a people who are generous enough to be forgiving when we can. May we ask each other for help to be our best selves. May we know that we're all in this together, even when it doesn't feel that way. In our atonement, in our seeking to unify ourselves with the oneness of all, may we remember that on a cosmic scale, there is no difference between you and anyone else on this planet, this beautiful blue boat that we all travel on. May we aspire to live up to our highest ideals and truly remember the inherent worth and dignity of every person. May it be so. Blessed be, and amen.